And we're starting with AEW, and later this week, CM Punk will at long last make his return to programming as part of the premiere episode of AEW Collision. Expectations are high for this Saturday's show, which will also see Punk in action, and fans can expect to see the former world champion regularly on the show. Building on the excitement surrounding Punk's comeback, AEW has confirmed his appearance on the following episode of Collision, scheduled to take place in Toronto on June 24th. This confirms reports that Punk will be on all Collision tapings going forward, and that episode of Collision will also be notable as the go-home show before Forbidden Door 2 the next night. Punk's involvement with this episode of Collision will add an extra layer of excitement to the show, and AEW has now hyped his return this week with a new t-shirt. On shopaew.com, fans can now pick up a CM FTR shirt featuring Punk alongside the reigning AEW World Tag Team Champions. We know already that Punk will team with FTR for this weekend's Collision, and this shirt certainly adds credence to the reports that they will be a consistent trio moving forward. Many believed Punk's wrestling career was finished after All Out, but that certainly isn't the case, and are you excited to see the former world champion back? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. It should hardly come as a surprise that many people are skeptical about Punk's return to AEW, especially after his comments on social media earlier this year. Punk has been a source of controversy for close to a year now, and the last thing AEW needs is another public scandal revolving around the self-professed best in the world. Speaking to Nick Hausman this week, AEW TBS champion Chris Statlander was asked about Punk and hopes that everyone can remain civil once he is back. She said, "I've always had decent interactions with him. If this is going to help us out, then that's fantastic. I can only hope that with all these announcements going on and this new show starting, that we only experience positive outcomes from this. Hopefully no negativity happens. We all get frustrated with our jobs sometimes, and that's understandable, but I do hope that everything we do going forward is for the better of AEW, and I think that's the most important thing." While many in AEW haven't been thrilled about Punk's return, Statlander isn't alone in her praise of Punk, as Billy Gunn has said that the former world champion has huge drawing power. Will CM Punk turn AEW's ratings around? Perhaps, but he'll need to remain on TV to do so, meaning it is in AEW's best interest that Punk avoids anything that may result in him being suspended again. When not competing in the ring, Jeff Hardy loves to create music with his band Peroxygen, and this week, the band's concert saw an unlikely visitor. On Twitter, WWE's Karrion Kross uploaded a video of himself sneaking up on Jeff with a chair, but instead of demolishing Jeff, he threw it away and embraced the pro wrestling legend. It's interesting to see the pair reunite, as fans will remember that Kross's woeful call-up to the WWE main roster in 2021 saw him lose to Jeff in his debut match on Raw. It wasn't long after this loss that Kross was released from WWE, and Hardy himself would be gone from the company just a few months later. Kross has since returned to WWE, where he's been doing better on SmackDown, while Jeff only recently returned to AEW programming, and it's great to see that the pair remain good friends, as seen at this concert. With AEW Collision premiering soon, fans are hopeful that the new show will give a spotlight to some wrestlers we haven't seen on TV for a very long time. Rebel, for example, used to be on AEW TV every single week as the go-to assistant of Britt Baker, but she hasn't been around a whole lot as of late. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select gave an update on Rebel this week, saying that despite not appearing, she is still with the company. Rebel hasn't wrestled since August 8th's episode of AEW Dark, where she defeated Vicky Dreamboat, and Fightful reports that she hasn't been present at any tapings backstage either. All this free time has allowed Rebel to work on her podcast for ad-free shows, in which she provides her views on the wrestling world with her years of insight into the business. As to whether Collision will see Rebel return to TV, time will tell, but despite her absence from programming, she remains very much a member of AEW's women's roster. Rebel isn't the only name we haven't seen in some time, as Parker Boudreaux hasn't competed in months, and now we know why. Fightful Select reports that Boudreaux, as well as Trench, are both out with injuries, but it is unknown what kind of issues the pair are dealing with. That is why fans haven't seen Swerve Strickland involved with the Embassy as of late, and we're wishing both men the very best during their recovery. The last time fans saw Roman Reigns defend the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, he was blocking Cody Rhodes from finishing the story in a heartbreaking end to WrestleMania 39. Since then, Reigns has surpassed 1,000 days as champion and has received a brand new championship title belt, and this new hardware will be on the line very soon. It's been confirmed that Reigns will defend his title this Saturday at the Heritage Bank Arena in Cincinnati, Ohio, and his opponent will be none other than Rey Mysterio. These two feuded over the Universal Championship in 2021, but Rey failed to win the gold, adding his name to a list of challengers that includes John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Edge, and others. It's highly unlikely that this historic title reign will end at a live event in Ohio, but the fans will get to see Reigns in action in a rare outing for our dominant tribal chief. Now, this week's Raw saw Chelsea Green in action as she took on Becky Lynch, but fans may not have noticed an interesting Easter egg from Green this week. For her match, the Canadian wore a black, pink, and blue attire, which was actually a nod to the reigning Impact Knockouts World Champion, Deonna Purrazzo. When the pair were teaming in Impact as Vexed, Green and Purrazzo wore matching attires, including the attire donned by Green for this week's Raw. Green and Purrazzo may be in different companies now, but the former Knockouts Tag Team Champions are still close friends, hence the fun Easter egg that most fans probably didn't notice on Raw. More from Raw as Gunther surpassed one whole year as the WWE Intercontinental Champion last weekend and has been truly dominant since capturing the gold. Gunther has retained against Shinsuke Nakamura, Braun Strowman, and had an instant classic with Sheamus in Cardiff, but now a new challenger may have emerged. On Raw, Damian Priest defeated Matt Riddle to qualify for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and after the bout, Imperium were ready to take apart the original Bro. Before doing so, Priest stood face to face in front of Gunther, after which he seemed to size him up, and then allowed the Austrian and the rest of Imperium to go after Riddle. This could be a hint that Priest will be going for the Intercontinental title soon enough, and then the big question is, who would be going over in this feud? Priest hasn't held singles gold on WWE TV in years, and is the IC title the right call for him? Or is WWE putting Priest in these high-profile matches only for him to lose? Damian Priest could be the next Intercontinental Champion and could hold the Money in the Bank briefcase, and with a rumored face turn, it'll be interesting to see what his career looks like a month from now. In 2019, Chris Jericho joined the upstart promotion AEW after decades of his name being associated with WWE. It is well known that Jericho spoke to Vince McMahon prior to signing with AEW, and McMahon even asked Jericho to get out of his deal after he signed, but that wasn't all the chairman asked of Y2J. During an episode of Inside the Ropes, Jericho recalled speaking with McMahon and the many questions he was asked by his now former boss. He explained, "McMahon was like, 'Who's recruiting?' I'm thinking to myself, well, it's me. I didn't want to tell him that, and then he was asking all these, what kind of TV deal? Like, you can't ask me these questions. I'm not going into here as a covert agent spy for Vince McMahon." Thankfully for Jericho, he didn't disclose any of the behind-the-scenes secrets to McMahon, as we doubt AEW's roster or Tony Khan would have looked kindly on him if he had blabbed. Instead, Jericho has been one of AEW's top stars, and in 2019 became the first AEW World Champion, a much better role for the Canadian veteran than being Vince McMahon's covert spy. Later this month, AEW Fight Forever will finally release on consoles, close to 3 years after the promotion's first console video game was first announced. Unsurprisingly, there's a ton of anticipating into the new game, arguably the biggest non-WWE wrestling game since TNA Impact in 2008, but what do those in AEW think of the game? Fightful Select reports that a few individuals who have played an advanced copy of the game believe it'll be a hit thanks to the playability and its multiplayer features. However, there has been a fair amount of criticism over the game's creative features, which are said to be woefully limited, especially compared to WWE's creative suite. There has also been some limitations regarding the game's story mode, though Fightful said that the wrestlers did provide feedback when it came to crafting a story. With AEW sinking a reported $10 million into its gaming department, there's a lot riding on Fight Forever being a hit. And will you be grabbing the game when it launches this month? Fight Forever will certainly be a huge deal for AEW, celebrating some of the top stars on the roster, but it'll also celebrate one of the most infamous moments in AEW history. In the report, Fightful revealed that when players compete in an exploding barbed wire deathmatch, they'll get one of two finishes, depending on how the match is gone. One finish will see a monumental explosion as to what you'd hope to see, but if the match didn't go well, the other finish will be a complete dud in a nod to Revolution 2021. Sources with the game added that there will be a ton of Easter eggs for fans to find, but it'll probably take gamers a long time to find them all. The finish of Revolution 2021, which saw the explosion be little more than fireworks, earned AEW a ton of mockery, and fans will get to relive that soon in Fight Forever. It's been 15 months since Tony Khan announced his purchase of Ring of Honor, and since then, fans have seen ROH talent on AEW TV and vice versa. This is despite Khan's plans to establish Ring of Honor as its own brand, rather than being seen as Dynamite Light, but his booking isn't just confusing fans, but the roster itself. Speaking to the Punch-Out podcast, The Butcher said that while some talents are exclusive to AEW and ROH, there is some crossover, but added that it gets pretty confusing to him and others under Khan's employ. While you may see a top name for ROH appear for AEW, you'll rarely see a top name in AEW make their journey to Ring of Honor, and we'll have to see how both promotions look in the coming years. And we're ending today with Jeff Hardy, who has a legion of loyal fans, but this week somebody decided to take advantage of Jeff's consistent popularity. In a clip that went viral online, Hardy was pressured to sign a dozen or so autographs, and it's very clear that this fan is simply planning on selling these online for a quick buck. On Twitter, multiple wrestlers called out this sort of behavior, with Mickie James branding it disgusting, and Jeff's brother Matt saying these so-called fans are taking advantage of Jeff's kind nature. It was earlier this year that Rey Mysterio refused to sign autographs for someone eager to make a profit, starting a dialogue about when people take things too far, and hopefully this practice one day comes to an end.